Israel evaded 2 ballistic missiles this morning from the Houthi terror proxy after the IDF says the launches from Yemen were successfully intercepted. Sirens sounded in Judea and Samaria and Palestinian villages during one of the attacks at 5 in the morning. Meanwhile, Israeli activists and reservists from the groups Generation of Victory and Sfa Teisha held a protest at the Ashdod port today and say they blocked the humanitarian and aid trucks that were headed for Gaza. The group say as soldiers are dying in combat in Gaza, quote, the state of Israel is sending aid to Hamas on a silver platter, calling it a national suicide. The group said on X they will be protesting every week going forward. And as aid flows into the Gaza Strip, the coordination of government activities in the territory says on Monday 170 trucks carrying humanitarian aid entered through the Kerem Shalom crossing and are making every effort to ensure it doesn't end up in the hands of Hamas. And as we near 600 days since October 7th, IDF Operation Gideon's Sword continues to press forward in Gaza. At the same time, Israel is overseeing the massive new Gaza humanitarian aid operation. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
It's day 599 of the war in Gaza. The army said the IDF's 36th Division is maneuvering in Khan Yunis after completing its operation in Rafah. The division has established a presence in the Morag corridor, splitting the two cities in recent weeks. During the maneuvers, the soldiers killed dozens of gunmen and hundreds of Hamas assets were hit, including observation posts and tunnels. In northern Gaza, the IDF eliminated a cell of terror operatives who launched several mortars at troops. No injuries were caused. The troops identified the cell and called in an airstrike to eliminate them and the building they were operating from. Meanwhile, the IDF-backed mechanism to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza is now fully operational. The Prime Minister's office confirmed that the distribution by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation system is underway, and Israel will prevent aid from being diverted to Hamas and its war effort. Officials say that if all goes according to plan, by the end of the week, about 1 million Palestinians, or about half of the population of the enclave, will be receiving aid from the GHF. International aid groups and the UN are refusing to cooperate with the initiative. They say it will cause more displacement of the Palestinian population, and that it also violates the prohibition that a warring party is in control of humanitarian assistance.
The idea came from Israel. It has been taken over by the United States. It appears that it will be run by the private sector, including private military contractors. It's not yet clear who will fund it. It's been widely criticized by professional humanitarians because of its limited reach, because of the limited nature of the supplies that it is going to provide. And it is certainly better than nothing.
Kogat announced that some 170 trucks carrying humanitarian aid have entered Gaza over the past 24 hours. And since the lifting of the blockade this week, 665 trucks have entered Gaza with food, medicine, and medical equipment.
Thanks for that report, Steve. And U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff says Israel is ready to approve a temporary ceasefire offer and is urging Hamas to agree to it. The news about a possible ceasefire and hostage deal has caused some frustration from the families of hostages. Here's what you need to know.
שחרור חטופינו בראש מעיינינו. ואני מקווה מאוד שנוכל לבשר משהו בעניין הזה, ואם לא נוכל היום, נבשר מחר, לא מוותרים.
A message from Prime Minister Netanyahu that came as a surprise has thrusted the families of hostages into frustration since Monday night. The news of a possible announcement to get the remaining 58 hostages out of Gaza has left families in limbo, with the brother of Nimrod Cohen accusing the Prime Minister of, quote, psychological terror by appearing to hint at a deal, worrying the government might eventually backpedal. News of movement also on Monday, as U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff said Israel is prepared to approve a temporary ceasefire deal and is urging Hamas to accept it. He denied claims Hamas accepted his hostage proposal and told Axios, quote, "From what I have seen from Hamas is disappointing and completely unacceptable." Witkoff says that the deal Israel will agree to would see half of the living and deceased hostages returned back home, which would then lead to a substantive negotiations to find a path to a permanent ceasefire. He said, quote, "The deal is on the table. Hamas should take it." Meanwhile, on Jerusalem Day, Monday night, Netanyahu said in his speech he vows to bring back all of the hostages, but will defeat Hamas so it no longer poses a threat to Israel.
ויש קשיים. החמאס עיקש, הוא סרבן, כך אמר גם הנציג האמריקני הערב, וויטקוף, זה נכון. אנחנו לא מרפים מהמשימה. אנחנו החזרנו עד היום 148 חטופים חיים. ויש עוד 20 בוודאות שהם חיים. ויש גם אחרים שאינם בחיים. ואנחנו מתכוונים להחזיר את כולם, החיים והחללים כאחד.
Now, could Israel be on the brink of a ceasefire and hostage deal, or will the Gaza ground offensive continue to expand? Joining us now to discuss is Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and CEO of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Tell me, what are your thoughts on this video Netanyahu published on Monday? He said there could be news even today about the hostages still in Gaza. Meanwhile, the families of some hostages say they're frustrated. It could be another dead end. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the challenge is to bring Hamas to the point where they're desperate, really, really desperate for a ceasefire, that they are desperate for humanitarian aid, that desperate for the stopping of the continuous attacks of the IDF on their leadership and the fact that the IDF is conquering the area. So it's really about enhancing three main efforts that currently the IDF and the Shin Bet are doing. One is systematically conquering the area, taking over the area and destroying systematically all the terror infrastructure and the terrorists, also clearing these areas and moving the Gazan people to the south. The second thing is the toppling of the leadership of Hamas, which is done continuously. They are left with very few people that have experience, and this is ongoing. And last but not least is detaching Hamas from its own society by moving them to the designated humanitarian zones controlled by the IDF. And as we are moving forward with these three efforts, the pressure on Hamas will enhance, and I believe that at a certain point they will be desperate enough to be willing to have a ceasefire that is not an end to the war, that is confined in time, and be willing to release hostages to get this ceasefire, because they will need it desperately, just as they needed it at the beginning of the war when we maneuvered very strongly in Gaza, and even for 2 weeks of ceasefire, they were willing to release many hostages.
Right. So if a temporary ceasefire and a hostage deal is actually made, what will happen to this ground offensive? Officials said this week they're hoping within the next 2 months to capture 75% of Gaza. And right now, there are thousands of troops already deployed inside of the Gaza Strip. How do you suddenly halt an operation this large and big?
So why is it 75% and not 100%? Not because technically, operationally, the IDF cannot do it. They can do 100%. We're talking about the 75% where we estimate there are no hostages. So basically, the idea is to break this operation into 2 stages. The first one is conquering systematically all the 75%, completely destroying the terror infrastructure, leveling it down, controlling 100%, the whole 75%, and then really closing on the areas where there will be remaining hostages. And this will put huge pressure on Hamas. They will be in a state where they lost basically almost everything. The whole area will be controlled. And also at that time, in the 75%, we'll have also hopefully 100% of the Gazans that are not Hamas in these areas, in the humanitarian zones. And this creates a completely different reality, might, by the way, even bring a collapse to Hamas even before. So I think that the plans are the right plans. They are balancing between the need to reach the goal of eradicating Hamas as a governmental and military entity, the goal of bringing back all the hostages, and the goal of creating a reality that never again there will be a terror army in the Gaza Strip. And we need to be able to reach all goals. They are challenging. We might prefer a certain goal at a certain point and another one at another point, but we have to push all the time constantly to reach all goals of war.
Right, so you talk about this pressure that the IDF is trying to put on Hamas to squeeze them to cut a deal. Now, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation said they began operations inside of Gaza today and already delivered truckloads of food to distribution sites. Meanwhile, the foundation says Hamas has threatened aid groups already in the Gaza Strip that are helping them with these deliveries. Do you think this new mechanism will prevent Hamas from getting the aid? You talked about squeezing Hamas into a deal. But could this potentially do the opposite?
So I think that already Hamas is under a lot of pressure when they see heads of clans going into Israeli-controlled areas and getting the food from Israel, not from Hamas. This is a huge change. The fact that these trucks don't go straight into Hamas, but to areas controlled by the IDF, this prevents also smuggling of money, weapons inside these trucks. So it really disrupts Hamas really attempt to rebuild itself. At this stage, we're sending heads of families to pick up the food. I think that will Hamas try and steal the food from their hands? We'll see. Mm-hmm. But the second stage is about really moving all the society into these areas controlled by the IDF, and then Hamas won't have the leverage. They will not be able to threaten them. They won't be there. They will be in areas controlled by the IDF. And this is really a big change. It's the next step. It hasn't happened yet. Now we're in the first step. But eventually Hamas will completely lose control of its own society, and they will be in areas controlled by the IDF.
Now, a new Israeli media report says a senior IDF official said in a briefing on Monday that Gaza is not even close to a famine. What have you gathered as this new aid comes into the enclave?
So I think he's right. And if you really look into what Gazans publish in different social media platforms, there is food in Gaza. There's not a shortage. But once we really will move all the food and fuel, everything to areas controlled by the IDF, we'll see a moment where Hamas will suffer from lack of aid. And a lack of other capabilities. And then we'll see how it will impact what they do.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today and just offering your perspective as all of this continues to change day by day.
Thank you very much.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Israeli-Hamas war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Israel Bonds pledges to ensure Israel thrives and flourishes. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
The diplomatic dispute between Israel and three key allies over recognizing Palestinian statehood is heating up. Israeli government ministers reportedly told counterparts in the UK, France, and Canada that any unilateral action they take on recognizing a Palestinian state will be met with Israeli measures as well. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer reportedly told the French Foreign Minister and British Foreign Secretary that Israel could respond by annexing part of Judea and Samaria. The ministers even raised a plan to annex Area C in the territories where more than 1 million Israeli settlers live in Jewish communities. Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar reportedly conveyed a similar message to the three allies and other nations planning to recognize Palestinian statehood, and French President Macron is expected to promote the coordinated recognition of a Palestinian state in a New York summit next month. The U.S. says it will not participate. Germany, Hungary, and the Czech Republic have announced opposition to the unilateral move. And sharp differences are being reported between U.S. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu over the issue of the Iranian nuclear program. Trump is indicating that a major announcement on the issue could be coming soon. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
after U.S. President Trump hinted that an agreement on the U.S.-Iranian nuclear deal could be imminent. Iranian officials insist that there is no deal at this time. The Iranian Foreign Ministry said it rejects the U.S. demand for a temporary freeze of enrichment and that it's not worried about sanctions. The statement said an interim deal is not on the table and that Iran will survive even if talks fall apart. Officials say no date has yet been set for a sixth round of talks between Tehran and Washington. Asked about reports that Iran would agree to a 3-year freeze in enrichment, an Iranian official said Iran will never accept that. The U.S. and Iran are reportedly considering an interim agreement as a temporary step toward a final deal. The talks aim to resolve a decades-long dispute over Iran's nuclear weapons ambitions, with the focus on the issue of uranium enrichment. According to Channel 12 Israel TV, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu engaged in a heated phone call last week over how to confront Iran. Trump reportedly told Netanyahu that he wants a diplomatic solution with the Iranians and that he has the ability to make a good deal. He also reportedly said that the agreement would serve the interests of both sides. The tone of the conversation was reportedly marked by sharp disagreement with Netanyahu, arguing for a military strike to destroy Iranian nuclear capabilities. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem met Netanyahu in Jerusalem yesterday and said that Trump sent her to explain to Netanyahu how negotiations were going and how important it is that we stay united and let the negotiating process play out.
Thanks, Devo, for that report. And now to Jerusalem, where what began as a day of celebration quickly turned tense. More on Jerusalem Day from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
This year's Jerusalem Day began with celebration, but quickly turned chaotic. What was meant to be a show of unity sparked division once again in the heart of the capital. Thousands of Israelis flooded Jerusalem's Old City on Monday for the annual Flag March, marking Israel's 1967 capture of East Jerusalem and the reunification of the city. But the event, known for national pride, spiraled when marchers began shouting slogans, waving flags, and confronting anyone they saw as opponents, including Palestinians, left-wing Israelis, and even journalists. Witnesses told Israeli and foreign media that tensions flared in the narrow alleys of the Old City. Some young marchers reportedly harassed Palestinian shopkeepers who had not closed their stores. Others clashed with Israeli activists and media crews, chanting "Death to Arabs." No arrests were reported, but videos circulating online showed pushing, threats, and attempts to block journalists from filming. This year's march took place only hours after far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir ascended the Temple Mount, a place where Israeli-Palestinian tensions often erupt, and against the backdrop of war in Gaza, now in its 20th month, a war that has left the Israeli public deeply divided. Ben-Gvir also joined the flag march. Earlier in the day, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed a special cabinet meeting in honor of Jerusalem Day. He emphasized Israel's unwavering stance on the city's future.
אנחנו נשמור על ירושלים מאוחדת, שלמה, בריבונות ישראל. אם חלילה נוותר על ירושלים, נקבל טבח גדול פי כמה. בעצם נקבל את חיסול האומה. ולא ניתן לזה לקרות.
Similarly, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, an outspoken supporter of Israel, praised the day as a celebration.
After 2,000 years of exile, yearning and praying toward Jerusalem, God fulfilled the prayer next year in Jerusalem by restoring the eternal capital of the Jewish people under Israeli sovereignty. I want the people of Israel to know that America stands with you.
Thank you, Mayan, for that report from Jerusalem. And World Jewish Congress delegates representing more than 70 countries came together in Jerusalem for the 17th Plenary Assembly. Delegates got to hear from Foreign Minister Gidon Sa'ar, families of hostages taken on October 7th, and a collection of other speakers in an inspiring event of connection and meaning. Let's see more.
The annual World Jewish Congress Plenary Assembly kicked off in Jerusalem for its 17th year.
The delegates are coming from 6 continents, approximately 70 countries, and it's an honor to be the host. I am the president of World Jewish Congress Israel chapter, and it is my pleasure to be their host this evening and to greet the delegates and to all of the friends of the World Jewish Congress.
The event was attended by delegates from more than 70 countries, as well as key Israeli figures like Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, who shared an in-depth overview of the state of Israel's relationship with Jewish communities around the world and reaffirmed the enduring bonds between Israel and the diaspora. Sa'ar emphasized the, quote, shared destiny and mutual responsibility that unite the Jewish people globally. After hearing from Sa'ar, the delegates transferred to the plenary hall, where they welcomed the families of 4 Israeli hostages who were taken on October 7th. Each family member shared stories of their loved ones while urging the assembly leaders to remain fighting for the return of all hostages.
Today we are in the aftermath of October the 7th, and it adds increased significance to the importance of this meeting. The World Jewish Congress is the diplomatic body that represents the interest of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people.
The World Jewish Congress is playing a crucial role in the protection of Jewish communities in the diaspora, coming together in the heart of Israel, the holy city of Jerusalem, strengthens not only the ties between Israel and the diaspora, but the ties between diaspora communities. As Minister Sa'ar reiterated, the shared destiny and mutual responsibility that unite the Jewish people globally.
A stunning 1,600-year-old mosaic has just been unveiled in Israel's south, offering a rare glimpse into Byzantine life in the Negev. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
A remarkable piece of history has just been revealed to the public in Israel's southern region. For the first time, a 1,600-year-old Byzantine-era mosaic is on display at the Merchavim Regional Council in the western Negev. The mosaic was uncovered more than 3 decades ago near Kibbutz Urim, on the edge of the ancient site called Kirbat Be'er Shema. Until now, it has been kept hidden and protected underground. Earlier this week, the Israel Antiquities Authority and the Israeli Ministry of Heritage officially unveiled the restored mosaic, following months of careful conservation work. Now installed in the council's headquarters, the colorful artwork gives a vivid glimpse into the life during the Byzantine period. The mosaic features 55 circular medallions filled with intricate scenes, everything from hunting and farming to mythological figures, exotic animals, and baskets of fruit. Experts describe it as a masterwork created by a highly skilled artist, using tiny stones in many colors, along with bits of glass and pottery for added richness. Archaeologists say the mosaic was originally part of a large monastery that operated a wine production center. Excavations revealed a wine press and warehouses filled with clay storage jars made on the site. The settlement itself lay along a major ancient trade route, once used by merchants moving spices and goods between Halutza and the port city of Gaza. The roads likely marked the transition from desert to more populated regions and served as a safe haven for travelers seeking protection from raids. Officials hope the newly unveiled mosaic will become a cultural and tourism highlight, especially for the Gaza envelope region, which of course has seen its share of challenges. They say showcasing historical treasures like this one can help breathe new life into the area.
Wow, what an incredible story. Thank you, Mayan. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see sunny skies alongside hot temperatures, seeing highs of 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's a wrap for today's show. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Shosh Bedrosian. Thanks so much for watching.